our first teller of the evening, Aria Wagner. And Aria, she began her storytelling career more than 7 years ago. And that was at the hand of Elizabeth Masson's Library Storytelling Club. So Elizabeth was here earlier, and we're so thankful for all of you that have taken young tellers under their wing and get them started. Now she's a fine young woman over here, and she's doing a wonderful job with her storytelling. And we just want to say that as a blossoming storyteller, this girl is getting around. She is. My mother would say she's getting around like a flea on a hound. I don't know how flattering that sounds. But Aria, she has been telling at the Hedberg Library, at WISTGET, and also at the Whitewater Storytelling Festival. And there is a flyer that's on the table over there because that festival is taking place 1 week from today. Well, Friday and Saturday, but the storytelling part will be on Saturday. So if you could make that, that would be good. If you can't make it, take a snap with your camera and pass it along. So I asked each of the tellers one of their special storytelling moments. And so Aria shared that she had a background in theater and music and musicals, and that she really loved it. And when she got involved in the art of storytelling, then she thought, oh, well, these things are kind of similar, but yet it's kind of different. And the thing she liked most was the audience participation. And so I just want to read quickly what she said about hearing and feeling the reactions of her audience, and even getting the audience to call like crows on command. So that's a lot of power that comes with storytelling. But she says it was incredibly rewarding to be able to make the audience feel like active participants in the story. And it encouraged me, is what she said, to find ways to connect to my audience in all of my stories, whether directly or indirectly, okay? Whether with audience participation or a special comedic moment. So Aria mentioned about feeling rewarded, but I think it's really us that we feel rewarded to have her as our first storyteller. As she comes up here, and we're going to listen to her spin her special twist on a classic tale, Psyche and Eros. Aria.
Long ago, in ancient Greece, there was a young girl named Psyche. Now, Psyche was the most beautiful girl in all of Greece, so beautiful, in fact, that she even rivaled the beauty of the goddess of love herself, Aphrodite. Now, Psyche grew up and tried to act as normal as she could, but as she grew older, she had plenty of suitors who were just falling on her doorstep wanting to marry her. But Psyche knew that they only really cared about her physical beauty. So she stayed back and stayed in her house because she wanted to marry only for true love. But that also meant that Psyche was quite lonely when she became an adult, and her parents started to get a bit worried, so they traveled to the Oracle of Delphi to seek some advice about Psyche's future. And the Oracle told them, "Your child is destined to marry not a man, but a fearsome monster. He awaits at the top of the mountain." Well, when Psyche's parents came home and told her, Psyche was a little nervous, but also kind of curious. I mean, it's a very strange destiny that was laid out for her, and she wasn't one to just refuse it. So even though her parents were worried, the next morning she packed her bags, said goodbye to all her friends, and set off up that mountain. Well, it was a long and treacherous journey, and as Psyche was walking, she was nearing the top, but her foot just slipped, and then she began to fall down the mountain until a wind swept her up and carried her all the way to the top. And Psyche realized that she had been saved by the god of the west wind named Zephyrus, and she thanked him for his kindness. Once Psyche had caught her breath, she looked around and saw that she was in some kind of valley at the top of the mountain. She didn't see anything at first, but as she looked off and across it in the distance, she saw a castle? A castle materializing out of thin air. Well, Psyche thought that she was imagining, but as she walked closer, she realized, indeed, this was a castle right here. Well, Psyche was just about to knock, but the door opened, and a gentle voice spoke in her ear. "All that you behold is yours." Well, Psyche didn't know what she should do, but she was tired, so she walked in, and she found that there was food laid out on ornate tables, and everything was decorated and furnished. She found clothes for her in the closet and a beautiful bed to sleep in. Well, the journey back was treacherous, so Psyche decided to stay a while, and she enjoyed herself for a couple nights, and seemingly all her needs were taken care of by invisible servants. Well, all was well until one night when Psyche was getting ready for bed. She saw a strange figure in the doorway. Psyche was startled, but it said, "No, please, don't worry. I'm the creator of this castle, and with your permission, I would like to live here with you." "Well, all right, but who exactly are you? If I'm to live with you, I must at least know your name." The figure sighed. "Well, that's my only thing that you have to promise me. If we are to live together, you must never ask my name or anything about me, and you must never try to look upon me, especially in the night when I'm sleeping and I can't conceal myself as I am now." Well, Psyche promised, and every night this man, Psyche wasn't sure who he was, but he began to sit with her and come to her room every night and talk with her, and it turned out he was actually very friendly and very kind, and they actually had a lot in common. Well, Psyche began to get close to this person, but very curious as well. She just wondered, who was he? Was he really the monster that she was destined to marry? Well, at some point, she just had to know. So one night, when the strange figure was sleeping in the bed, near her, but not next to her, she slowly crept out on the other side, lit an oil lamp, and slowly walked over to where he was. Her hands started to shake, but she couldn't turn back now, so she went up close and shone the lamp in his face, and it was the most beautiful man. No, not a man. This had to be a god. If Psyche would guess, she would guess the god Eros, the son of Aphrodite, the goddess of love. Well, Psyche was just so much in awe that she didn't realize her hand had slipped, and a drop of oil fell on Eros' shoulder and awoke him. And the oil burned into his arm, and he saw what Psyche had done, and he got up and spread his wings. "I'm sorry, Psyche. I came here to hide with you from my mother, but now that you've seen me, I must go." And he flew off into the night. Psyche called after him, but he didn't look back. Now, Eros wasn't lying. His mother, Aphrodite, was indeed looking for him. Aphrodite wanted to curse Psyche. She sent Eros to curse Psyche for her, rivaling her beauty. But as soon as Eros laid eyes upon Psyche, he fell instantly in love with her, and he wanted to get to know her better, and so he hid them both. But now, with the betrayal, it burnt into his arm and made it even worse, and he had no choice but to fly back to Mount Olympus to his mother. Now, of course, his mother was angry, but as soon as she saw him and saw that he was injured, she immediately took him into bed and let him rest the night. The next morning, Eros woke up and realized that his arm still wasn't healed. He went to the door and he heard Aphrodite talking to some goddesses. "Oh, Psyche? No, she's not prettier than me. No, I saw her. Yes, I saw her the other day. She was at one of my temples. She's looking for Eros. She's in love with him, apparently, and she wants to prove her love. Well, I gave her 3 tasks to complete, but they are quite impossible. She will die before she completes them." Well, Eros was listening behind the door, and he realized he couldn't let Psyche die. So, although his arm was hurting quite a lot, he flew out his window and went off in search of Psyche. And pretty soon he found her in a barn. Psyche's first task was to sort out piles of grain in the barn. But there were too many piles, it was too much grain. It was quite impossible to complete before sunset. So Eros went and whispered in Psyche's ear, "Do not worry, I shall help you." And he went and talked to the ants and got them to help Psyche sort out the grain. And then Eros, quick as can be, flew right back to Mount Olympus and jumped into bed just as his mother walked in. "Eros, how are you? Are you all right?" Yes, I'm fine. "Why, you sound out of breath." No. I was just doing some exercising. I'm fine. "All right, well, get some rest, sweetie." She closed the door. The next morning, Eros listened outside again and heard his mother talking again about the next task that Psyche was to complete. He listened carefully, and then, although Aphrodite this time had locked him in his room, he used his magic to escape, although it made his arm hurt even more. He flew off in search of Psyche again. He found her by a river. Psyche was being made to cross the river so that she could shear some sheep on the other side, but the river was too treacherous and impossible to cross. So Eros went up to Psyche and said, "Do not worry, I shall help you." And he went and talked to the nymph of the river and asked her to slow the rapids so Psyche could cross. As soon as he did that, he flew right back to Mount Olympus and jumped into bed just as his mother walked in. Eros, how are you? Oh, my, you're wet. I'm fine. Just a little hot and sweaty. I'm fine. Okay, well, goodness, oh my, you have a fever. That arm really isn't healing. Well, get some rest. And to make sure no one disturbs you, I'll lock your room up extra tight. And she closed the door. Well, the final day, Eros listened outside again for the third and final task, and this one seemed even more impossible, so he knew he had to help Psyche. And although it took all of his strength, he used the last of his magic to escape his room once more, and went off for Psyche. Well, for Psyche's third and final task, she had to go to the underworld and get some beauty and rejuvenation cream from Persephone, the goddess of the underworld. Well, mortals, the living, could not enter the underworld, and Psyche knew that this was impossible. She didn't even know where to begin. But just as she was thinking and sitting, a gentle voice whispered in her ear again, "Do not worry, I shall help you." And a secret door to the underworld opened. Well, Psyche was beginning to suspect who this voice was, but she didn't say anything for fear of Aphrodite, and she went down into the underworld, and the voice led her through all the dangers and right up to Persephone's palace. Well, Psyche went inside to Persephone, and she gave her that jar of beauty and rejuvenation cream, and she said, "Do not open this jar, Psyche, whatever you do." Psyche promised, and then she walked outside the castle, but no sooner did she got out the doors when she saw there he was, her love, Eros, collapsed on the ground. Oh, he was so hurt, and he looked so horrible and sad. She knelt down next to him. "Eros, my poor love, what's happened to you?" And then she looked at that jar of beauty and rejuvenation cream. Well, this is for gods. Maybe it'll help him. And she started to open it, and Eros said, no, Psyche, wait! But it was too late. What was inside was not beauty and rejuvenation cream. It was a sleeping spell, and it put Psyche into a deep, deep sleep. Poor Eros was horrified. He looked up and said, "Mother gods, please allow Psyche to become immortal so that we can be together. Have we not proven our love enough to you?" And Aphrodite, she was up there and she was listening to them, and she realized what they had all done for each other. Well, perhaps Psyche was, in fact, worthy of her son. So, with Zeus's permission, the god, the king of all the gods, she agreed, and she awakened Psyche, and as soon as Psyche awoke, Psyche and Eros embraced, and they ascended to Mount Olympus in a golden light, and they lived together forever, for all eternity.
Thank you so very much. Now that was engaging. That was exciting. That was a new perspective. Don't you all agree? Thank you so much for that beautiful story.